Well, hello, this is Drrickpatterson. I'm glad you're with me today. You're not tuning into this broadcast by accident. It is a divine appointment. Let me repeat, it's a divine appointment. God has directed out of all the millions of YouTube videos and Rumble videos and things that you could be looking at online, God specifically brought you to this particular broadcast. I've got some very important information I believe every Christian needs to be aware of. Every Christian needs to realize that we are being manipulated and controlled by the greatest addiction humanity has ever known. That's right, the greatest addiction humanity has ever known. Before I get into the teaching today, I have a PowerPoint presentation that I created a couple of days ago, but I want to share with you online this particular as we get into today. But you need to understand, we need to wake up, America. We need to wake up, Christians, because you and I are being programmed and we're being controlled in the name of convenience. And in this control mechanism, our brains are literally being trained and changed, physically changed, to comply with that which is not of God. I hope you stay with me today. I hope you don't tune away and try to get bored, because what I'm going to give you today has the potential of saving your life. Well, let me remind you, we have our broadcast every Sunday morning, and we have our live presentations every Sunday morning at 1047 at 9775 Southwest 87th Avenue in Miami, Florida. And we want to encourage you, and some of you have never given anything to help us in support of these teachings. You can do that by text giving 73256, and in the subject line, put ChristLifeCenter, one word. You can also use the QR code located on the screen in front of you. Want to also encourage you to go to our website, ChristLifeCenter.org, and join with us in the various activities we have at Christ Life Center. Every Wednesday night at 9 p.m., I have a Zoom Bible study. It's free. It's a college-level teaching, and we're literally now in the book of Colossians. We finished up the book of Ephesians. Now we're in the book of Colossians chapter 1 and chapter 2 this week at 9 p.m. Now you can go to our Facebook and you can get the Zoom link, or you can email me, rick@patterson.org, rick@patterson.org, and I'll send you the link. And you're very, very welcome to join with us. Also, we want to encourage you to subscribe to our Rumble channel at Rumble Dr. Rick. So let's get into today's teaching, the greatest addiction humanity has ever known, and how you and I are being controlled, manipulated to begin to believe a narrative that's not even real. You know, this week, it's kind of interesting. Those who may have missed it, Google, with their Gemini artificial intelligence programming, has done something it wasn't by accident, folks. And those of you who know what I'm talking about, they were literally brought up when you would ask Bard, or it was Bard at the time, now it's Gemini. You would ask Gemini to create a photorealistic picture of the early American founders. All of the people came up as black. All of the people that you would ask for in these things, they would come in a racial color of black. And what is happening there? Someone says, well, that's just to cause confusion and anger. What it is a manipulation. It's to begin to manipulate. This is where I've tried to tell you, artificial intelligence is going to change all of human history. That's why the Bible is so important for you to have a copy of. That's why I want you to join me with what I call Project Eli. Project Eli. And we're going to be raising funding to be able to place the Bible. We're placing the Bible in a program called Project Eli, based upon the movie of the Book of Eli, in which Denzel Washington was a absolutely amazing performance in that program. And if you haven't watched the Book of Eli, you need to do so, because it will give you some insight on a post-apocalyptic world in which all of a sudden things have changed and the Bible has been eliminated and he has only one copy. We're wanting to store in a crypto, in a Web3 format in which the Bible would not be able to be altered or changed. And I'm going to give you more information on the future of that and give you the opportunity to be a part of that, to be able to make that a reality. So, the greatest addiction ever known is the cell phone, the iPhone, the iPads, the internet connectivity, all of the things in the social media you and I have become addicted to. Hello, this is Drrickpatterson with CLC TV. I wanted to bring you an update and a PowerPoint presentation that I believe that is appropriate for this moment in time in our history. I want to talk about the greatest addiction humanity has ever known. In fact, I want you to understand that you need to wake up, because you're being programmed, you're being controlled in the name of convenience, and they are literally changing your brain to comply with their agenda. So, the addiction to cell phones, social media, internet connectiveness, all of the things that we live on every day in our daily lives, in which we are literally getting up, scrolling through our iPhones and our Androids, we are being programmed consistently with information that does not exalt Jesus Christ, number one. Number two, information that is really anti everything you and I as believers believe on. Now, there is a direct comparison between drugs and cell phone addiction. Some of you may not realize it, and you may not realize that it is an addiction. But it is important to note that chemical addictions involve direct physiological effects of substances on the body that can cause us health risk, mental risk, withdrawal problems. And business and big tech has designed these strategies to promote user engagement and maximize their revenues and advertising. Now let's talk about how this works. The neurological process of social media addiction. First of all, social platforms are designed to engage you by rewarding with likes, comments, shares, triggering a release of dopamine. Now, dopamine is that neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward. You know, I think probably TikTok is one of the leading ones where young people in particular are addicted, looking for as many likes as followers that they can. And when you receive notification that your video or your post has been liked, all of a sudden you're given a dopamine surge. This is a natural mechanism But it's similar to what happens when you eat something that you like or you engage in enjoyable activities. That dopamine's released, which releases a reward system activation. A part of your brain's reward system is activated when that dopamine shot hits you. It's increased. And that's the area responsible for reinforcing behavior necessary for survival. So, such as eating, such as watching television, getting hooked on a particular series of TV programming, the system reinforces your behavior by checking your phone or your computer constantly for updates, creating this habitual addiction. Now, let's look at this, how serotonin works. Serotonin and the pathways into the brain. Now, this is something that's really important. Serotonin, with social media, acts as a serotonin neurotransmitter that contributes to a feeling of well-being and happiness. So when you're on your social media and someone clicked like or someone shared it, you're receiving a positive reinforcement from that social media platform. You're receiving supportive comments. Now, you'll also notice that people have become suicidal when they started feeling like they were being bullied on the internet with negative comments. So the opposite is taking place, to where it has so damaged that person's mental psychic ability that they're willing to commit suicide. But these serotonin levels, as you get those likes and the dopamine is released, it's a mood-altering reality. And over-reliance in these digital interactions creates a dependency and an addiction.
For many years, scientists have thought the brain was fixed and hardwired and couldn't change after childhood. But recent research shows this is simply not the case at all, and we know that people's brains can change well into old age. In fact, our brains change every day. Our brains are considered to be plastic or pliable, and this has helped neuroscientists coin the term neuroplasticity. So how does neuroplasticity work? Well, think of your brain as a huge city with thousands of roads and lots of traffic. Some of these roads are faster than others, with lots of traffic moving quickly and easily. These roads with all their traffic represent our established ways of thinking, feeling and doing. Every time we think, feel or do something in the same way, we strengthen this road, making it faster, and it becomes quicker and easier for our brains to travel this pathway. But by contrast, if a road wasn't built well in the first place, or becomes blocked, or we think, feel or do something differently, we start to use a different pathway. If we keep using that new road, our brains begin to use this pathway more and more, and this new way of thinking, feeling, or doing becomes automatic. In the meantime, the old pathway gets less and less use and weakens. In other cases, it may be possible to repair or rebuild a blocked pathway. This process of rewiring your brain by strengthening existing pathways, making new ones, weakening old ones, and repairing broken ones is neuroplasticity in action. It is important to understand that neuroplasticity is not good or bad. It is just what the brain does. Neuroplasticity can result in helpful changes, like when a child learns how to cross a road safely, or when an adult learns a new set of work skills. On the other hand, it can result in unhelpful changes in the brain, like when someone develops a bad habit or an unhealthy way of thinking. The exciting thing is that scientists are getting better and better at directing neuroplasticity in the brain, and developing treatments for conditions that were considered to be previously incurable, or at least difficult to fix. Things like ADHD and learning disorders, anxiety, depression, chronic pain and migraines, for example. At the Perth Brain Centre, we've helped thousands of people over the last 10 years. We have a team of healthcare professionals who are skilled in the use of neuroplastic therapies, and we look forward to helping you or someone you know.
Literally, we are creating new neuroplasticity, there you go, and we're creating a new neural network in our thinking, in our consciousness by repetitive actions. I would talk about this years ago. For years, I would have a routine in which I literally got up every morning, got in my car and drove to a 7-Eleven and drank a cup of coffee. And I did this day after day after day after day to where, literally at a certain time as I woke up in the morning, I was almost driven. I had to go get that cup of coffee. Now, I could have made a cup of coffee at the house, but I had already created a habit, an habitual process that was creating a need for me to go to 7-Eleven. Now, the same thing happens when we begin to operate in our social media, our cell phones, our internet connectedness, and all of this on a repetitive manner. So the constant need to check devices and the fear of missing out, FOMO, can elevate stress levels. And what that does is it increases the cortisol in your body, which is a stress hormone. And this creates a vicious cycle where user engagement requires more and more social media to alleviate the stress, therefore enhancing the dependency on the system. So one of the realities, if you're going to change the way you live your life, the way you change the way you access in the kingdom of God, the spiritual things, there are certain things that you're going to have to change. One of those changes the addiction to this thing right here, to this cell phone that we carry with us, and it's with us at all times, at all places, in all situations. Now, there is a direct comparison to chemical addiction, such as crack, meth, cocaine, because in the biochemical dependency that's created with the excessive use of social media and cell phones, the similarities of chemical addictions are the same. There's the dopamine surge in both types of addiction, the overstimulation of the brain's reward system through the release of dopamine. In substance abuse disorder, the consumption of a substance directly causes this surge. So social media has created the same process. Years ago, when I was teaching back in the early 1990s about the internet, and those of you who understand, I had a great vision of the internet. And 1992, you go back and Bill Gates was telling you the internet was going to go nowhere. And God spoke to me and says the internet will change everything. Everything that was done then will be done tomorrow on the internet. Now we're seeing that take place quite literally. And not only did I teach that, but I said once we get to a point where we are going to be using our phones, our internet connectivity constantly, it will be more addicting than crack cocaine. And here we are right now in 2024, and people are absolutely, totally addicted. Okay? And as a result of that, for example, I challenge people on Sunday at church. I said, how about, those of you who celebrate Lent, how about giving up your cell phone and internet connection for one day out of the week? One day. And I said, make it Sunday. And I had almost an immediate negative response from the congregation. I mean, it was like, oh my God. You would have thought, now if I asked them to fast food for a day, they'll do that. But to fast or give up their cell phone addiction, that was something that most people just wasn't really too ready to do that, okay? And the part of that is because because we've become addicted, when you don't have that dopamine fix every hour and every minute flipping through the phone, all of a sudden you start experiencing withdrawal symptoms, okay? And you may need to spend more time online and feel satisfied and experience discomfort. One of the interesting things about your cell phone is that you can go into the general settings and you can see how many hours, how many minutes a day you are on your phone. Same thing's true on your computer. Now, one of these, when you're unable to access your social media, people can get absolutely in depression. So when I suggest giving up a cell phone for one day a week, man, what a negative response. And like, oh my God, let's do something different. Let's not eat for a day. Let's do something, but not my cell phone, not my social media, not my text messages, not my email. Now, both types of addiction, whether it's a chemical addiction or it is a social media or electronic addiction with our connectivity, both types of addiction negatively impact different areas of your life. Impacts your relationships, impacts your work. Do you realize, you have people who go to work and basically they're spending half their time on their cell phone rather than working? It impacts your mental health, and it can lead to negative personal and professional responsibilities. At some point, if businesses were really smart, they would do what we used to do when cell phones first came out or beepers first came out. The businesses would say, you're not allowed to take any personal calls during your work time. Well, now today, people carry their cell phone with them constantly, 24 hours a day. And if you just go to watch people when they're working, they're not working half as much as they're checking their phone. So let's look at how the neural changes take place, okay? And this is a diagram of neurotransmitter function as in social media addiction. Once again, it releases the dopamine, okay? Let's get up here and let me get you a little drawing here. Okay, it releases that dopamine, and as that dopamine is released, creating that reward system, okay? Then we have a serotonin effect. That serotonin release, and you have a sense of well-being. There's a cortisol release, and then all of a sudden you begin to create a neuroplasticity and a need for being able to do that. That's the way that works. And long-term changes take place. So here you have the dopamine. That's important. But that is all based upon your reward system, getting the likes, getting the shares, getting all the things that are involved with that, okay? Now let's continue on. You're being programmed by design. Now, you see, this is a scene out of a movie and so forth, and people say, oh, no, this is not what I am. Well, you may not. I don't know if you've noticed the new headsets that Apple has just released. People are walking around with these headsets on, very similar to what you're seeing this individual have, but they're literally in the, they're able to make motions and change what they're seeing on their screen and continue to walk down the street. If you don't understand what they're doing, you look at them and say, this person is totally crazy. But you need to understand, we are being programmed by design. This is a plan, okay? Now, it is a design strategies to increase your engagement online. Now, the variable reward systems, okay, inspired by the concept of variable ratio reinforcement found in slot machines. This is the same thing that happens when people are addicted to slot machines, addicted to gambling. Many of the social media use the same algorithm concept and that unpredictably reward users with comments, likes, and shares. Now, I don't know if you've ever noticed it, but if you'll go into a restaurant, people sitting around, just as you see in this particular picture here, people are in the same room, but they're not talking to each other. They're basically each one looking at their individual phone and ignoring the people in the room, and there's no social interaction, and there's this repeated engagement with the network on the phone. And you see this constantly taking place. Now, this is a common scene. It's a common scene in church. It's a common scene at the family dinner table. It's a common theme at the restaurant. This is what people have become and are addicted to. So, for example, this concept of infinite scrolling and constantly scrolling, auto-playing videos, okay? These auto-playing videos remove that natural stop points, okay? So that all of a sudden now, once one video or one clip has been shown, all of a sudden it immediately goes and auto-rolls into the next one. And the next thing you know is you're watching 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there seems to be no endpoint. And that's by design. They want to engage you with longer periods to create an habitual reality in your life. Okay? So there they're going. You're scrolling up, and you're constantly going in this process. That's by design. Big tech knows more about you and your brain than you know yourself. And they're using everything they can, all the algorithm, all the science that they can to create a new reality for you and I. This is you know what's interesting? And I know none of you are going to admit that you take your cell phone into the bathroom. Okay? It's amazing how many people can't even go to the bathroom without their cell phone. Now, have you ever been in a public restroom and all of a sudden somebody next to you is speaking on their cell phone and they're in the stall next to you, or they're scrolling, or they're playing a video or something? Big tech has collected vast amounts of data on each one of us, our preferences, our behavior, our interactions, to feed a algorithm that personalizes content. So they know by now what you like, what your tastes are, what you want to see. And they begin to tailor that content to your individual interest, and they begin to push notifications to create this engagement so that you'll spend more time on the platform. And FOMO, okay, remember what FOMO is, okay, thinking that you're going to miss out on something. So the same thing happens when you're going through and you're watching people go down the street. It's I don't know how many of you have ever noticed these videos where you have people that's on crank, that drug crank, and they're literally bent over, almost touching their toes in a position. They're almost locked in that position throughout these drug addiction areas. Well, there's not much difference between that and watching people with their heads bent over, their arms holding their cell phone, and people can't even walk down the street without holding a cell phone and looking at something on it. Whether it's a person walking down the street at a park, walking with a friend of theirs, they're always checking their cell phone because there's the urgency or the fear of missing out something. You know, I wonder what is so important, and what is more important than when you're with a person, particularly your love, your wife, your husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, your children, and whatever that situation is, you're afraid that you're going to miss out something, so you got to check the phone. And that's exactly the way people walk now. They walk down the street, mindlessly looking at their cell phone, unaware of traffic, unaware of circumstances and situations around them. Now, this is a pretty good one, okay? This is a TikTok, okay, and a Cupid dance, okay? Okay, I mean, here you have a good-looking girl, and you have her doing this Cupid dance, teaching people how to do it, creating continuous content. And, I mean, all of a sudden you're watching this. Now, if you're watching this on TikTok, you're going to immediately go to another video of another dance, and you're going to look at, the other day I was coming out of a restaurant. I'd eaten breakfast at a restaurant here in South Miami. And all of a sudden, there was two teenage girls. They were out in the parking lot, okay? And all of a sudden, they were doing this TikTok dance. They had their cell phone. It was on record. And they were streaming from their cell phone. And they had it placed on the curb so that they would have a visual of them, their whole body visual. And I looked at it and I said, isn't that interesting? Now, if I'd asked those two girls, now think about this. If I had asked those two girls, I said, girls, you like to dance? Won't you just dance for me? Or dance for your parents? Oh, no, they would be too embarrassed to do so. But because they were able to do it and stream it on TikTok, which they think is anonymous, people don't know them and so forth, they're willing to do whatever they do to get the likes. It's interesting, isn't it? So the question is, why are you being controlled and why are you being manipulated? Why? Now, the next question is, why are you allowing them to control you? And why are you allowing them to manipulate you? I just had I do a lot of research concerning artificial intelligence, and those of you who understand that OpenAI this week released Sora, Sora, which is text to video, and the imagery of what they were able to create by just a short paragraph of text of what they wanted, and then allowing the computer to create not only the images but the entire moving video. What you don't understand, that the future of actors and actresses are over. The need for people to be paid to be on screen is over. Script writers, it's over. Why? Because AI is going to do a better job than what people are doing. And they're going to have actors and actresses that will not be taking off, not be missing work, not being late, not having to be catered to, and like many of the actors and actresses that we know over history had to be treated, or they would be upset and it would affect the entire production. But why are you and I being controlled? Well, first of all, it's the money. Advertising revenue is the primary business model for the tech giants that revolves around advertising. The more engagement means more screen time, which translates in more opportunities to show users ads and marketing information. So the strategies that increase user engagement directly contribute to higher advertising revenue. Now, so for example, if you watch YouTube videos and you wanted to eliminate the advertisement, then Amazon or Google, YouTube requires you to have a monthly subscription. You see how that works? So if you're not going to see the ads, they want you to subscribe to an ad-free system. Yet even in the ad-free system, you're subject to ads. It's really kind of interesting. The next thing is data collection. Increased engagement means that more data about you, your family, your behavior can be used to improve ad targeting. And then it's an invaluable resource to optimize campaigns to specific audiences. Now, who's collecting it? Obviously, big tech, number one. But who else is collecting that information? The NSA, the CIA, the FBI, the IRS. Everyone is collecting and aggregating and sharing the information and selling the information. So, for example, a big part of Facebook's revenue stream is by them selling the metadata on user interaction. Same thing with Google, same thing with Apple. All of this takes place. But really, probably one of the most frightening part of this whole system is how the government is tracking you and using it. Now, someone says, oh, no, the government is not tracking you. No, what the government does is they play this game. So, for example, if the FBI, they say, well, no, we don't track you. What they do is they now buy or partner with the big tech firms, Google, Apple, and so forth, and they pay them to get the metadata and to be able to track accordingly. We are clearly into the brave new world. We're clearly into a dystopian reality, and unfortunately, many of us don't even know it. Another reason is market competition. Okay, continuing depression. Now, this is a perfect scene that you'll see people in and age doesn't really matter anymore. It used to be that people in my age would, they'd. You know what I do? Here's a little thing that I do when I go out to eat, and I don't go out to eat very much anymore. But when I sit down at a table, I tell everybody, okay, put your cell phone, turn it off, because we're here to talk with each other. We're here to share time with each other. Put it in the middle, and the first person that picks up their phone before we get the check and pay, you have to pay the bill for every single person, okay? And I'll tell you what, that slows them down, and initially they sort of rebel against it, but I mean, then it becomes a little game. But at least you have an interaction rather than watching someone talk to someone who's not even there. Now, and so this continues on and on and on. And all of a sudden, as you see in this picture, no one's paying attention to the person next to them. No one gives a flying flip. They're engaged somewhere else. They're in another reality. Now, please listen to me. They're in another reality. Let me say that again. They are in another reality, an augmented, alternate reality that has been created for them. And in that alternate, augmented reality, they are no longer conscious of their current reality of who they're sitting next to. As I said, it doesn't matter the age at this point anymore. I mean, you have seniors who every time you turn around, they have to take a picture and post it or send it to somebody. One of the funniest things happens to me is why do they consistently take pictures of their food and share it online? Oh, well, it's, we want people to. Why do people always have this, fake smile? Look at that fake smile. All those people are not that happy sitting at that table. But as soon as the picture is taken and it's posted, now they go back to their own little reality and whether they're fussing and fighting and arguing with each other. This is this is a non-real picture that doesn't exist in reality. Anybody at any family knows that is not real. Now, there's nothing wrong with having staged or nice pictures, but when you continue to create the illusion that everything is happy, everything is wonderful, when it's not, then you're literally losing the concept of what life is all about. Now, here's another one. Here we have a young lady who's sitting here, and all of a sudden she's looking at all the likes that she's getting. She is totally affixed on her screen. Totally, completely. I mean, you can look it in her eyes. You can see it, how she reacts. Once again, she is in another conscious reality. And I'm going to talk about that in a moment because that's really where we have to change our understanding. And how about this one? How about when we're going to sleep and we're in bed with our cell phone in our faces? The last thing feeding that addiction before we go to bed, we're accessing all of the things that create the dopamine, the serotonin, the cortisol, and the affirmation that we seem now to be addicted to. This is real, and you need to understand it. And this is probably one of the scariest things that take place. It's people who drive down the road with their cell phones, texting, answering cell phone calls, trying to drive, and creating all kinds of chaos, not paying attention to what they're doing except being on their phone. Now, one of the things that I do with my cell phone is I have in the application, the general settings, is the focus, which it says you set when you're driving, there's no phone calls, no text messages going to be received. Now, the only phone call that I will receive during that focus time or can ring through is my wife, okay? And so other than emergency, she's not going to call me. And so the reality is I'm not constantly having to grab my phone. And I don't know, if you don't know, that's already illegal in most states to drive and text. In Florida, it's illegal to drive and have your cell phone, talking on your cell phone. Yet people do it, and unfortunately, it's not really enforced that much. Now, another thing as you begin to understand is as people begin to do everything on their cell phone, they're creating a reality that is so critical, okay, that we need to understand that. And we're going to look at that in just a moment here, okay? Okay, it looks like all right, there we go. So as a person is walking down the street, observing not anything that's going on. Now, this is very dangerous if you don't understand this, okay? When you are not even aware of what's going on around you, I mean, whether someone's going to attack you, rob you, or whatever, there is no situational awareness because, once again, you are in a zone. Now, when I say think about what you've just saw and think about how you and I'm talking about myself included, you and I have been manipulated and controlled since the advent, particularly of the iPhone and the smartphone. The smartphone literally has changed everything. When the smartphone was created, I mean, we have eliminated so many items. We've eliminated tape recorders. We eliminated cameras. We've eliminated digital movie recording. Music. I mean, so many things have been compressed into one small product, appliance called the smartphone. Now, the real question is, has that appliance been used for you and by your family for the glory of God, or has it been used to rob your time with God? Think about that for a moment. Has your addiction stolen time from your family? Has your addiction contributed to or reduced your ability to share the gospel of Jesus Christ with others? Just a thought. But what do I know about this? I know everyone is going to defend, listen carefully, every one of you are going to defend this particular appliance, this particular item. You're going to defend it because in defense, you're only protecting your own addiction. I asked people in our church Sunday to turn off the cell phone, and you would think I was asking them to sell their soul. It was immediate negative response for 90% of the people because we've become so addicted. So I'm going to ask you, I'm going to give you a 30-day challenge. 30-day challenge. Start by taking one day out of the week and say, I'm not going to turn on the cell phone. I'm not going to answer messages. I'm not going to look at my Facebook. I'm not going to look at Instagram. I'm not going to look at all of the social media. For somebody says, I can't do it for one day. How about doing it for 4 hours? How about doing it from the time that you get up in the morning on Sunday to the time you leave church on Sunday morning? That's a good little challenge for you. But either way, make a decision and ask yourself, am I spending so much time? And one of the ways you can do that, you can go to your general settings. And your general settings will tell you exactly how much time you're spending every day on this appliance, this computer, this tracking device, this device that is stealing our time and our relationships. I hope you've learned something today. And I hope it's brought you to a point where you're saying, maybe I need to change. Well, I'm out of time today. I'm glad that you joined with me. I want to encourage you to take the time, pray about what I shared with you today. I want you to remember, I love you. Jesus loves you. Jesus is Lord. And don't you forget it. God bless you. I'll see you next week.